So before, mostly on the podcast, I've covered the right to repair. Basically, I bought this phone. Since I bought this phone, I should be able to do whatever I want to with the physical object. Even if you want to say, well, copyrights and patents means that I can't duplicate the software or the design or whatever. I mean, I've got lots of videos critical of IP in general, but I'm just talking about this thing here. If I want to take this apart and see how it works and reverse engineer it, and if I want to make modifications to it, and if I want to repair it when it goes wrong, and I have the ability to do that, well, I should be able to do that, right? Because it's my thing. The actual physical thing is mine. Oh, shut up. I have this thing. This is mine. It belongs to me. It's a thing. I should be able to do whatever I want to with it. That also means that I should be able to give this to someone else and say, hey, fix this for me, and pay them for it. That's right to repair. That's all right to repair is. And I covered this first one that Carl Bode mentions, the John Deere tractor. The farmer had a problem with it, and he went in and solved it, and they said, well, you violated our DMCA copyrights because in order to fix the tractor, because it was a programming error, he had to get past the digital rights management. And according to the DMCA, just doing that is illegal. Now, the courts have been whittling away at that. Like at first, you couldn't even make a backup of a DVD for your own personal, use. In case the DVD gets scratched, okay, now I've got this ISO over on the computer, or maybe, re-encode it into an MKV or whatever. And at first the court said, yeah, no, of course they can do that. So they've been whittling away at exception after exception. But if nothing else, I mean, the whole thing needs to go. The DMCA is just awful. But if nothing else, we need something that says that you can break DRM for purposes that would otherwise be lawful. And that's all this farmer did. So, and then what is he going to, authorized repair, pirated firmware, things like that, all the stuff people go through to try and make sure that the products they have paid good money for actually work. And he says, since then, the right to repair has expanded dramatically. Apple is one of the big offenders here, and we've covered this, how they were even doing like customs, getting customs to stop the importation of parts that will work to fix iPhones that weren't made or authorized by Apple. That's absolutely ridiculous. And we've also seen, several places on YouTube, there are guys who can repair iPhones. They're like, yeah, they're charging them, $200 at the Apple store to fix it, or just saying we can't fix it, you need to buy a new iPhone. When they say, well, I could fix that for $5. It's an easy repair. So it's a problem. They also mentioned Microsoft and Sony. And he also mentions that it is extended into the medical arena, where device manufacturers enjoy a monopoly on tools, documentation, and replacement parts, making it a nightmare to get many pieces of medical equipment repaired, and that's become even more of a problem during COVID-19. And we covered one example that there's a lot of myths going on about. But they were needing these little valves that go on the respirators, and the company couldn't keep up with demand for it. And so they were thinking, okay, let's just 3D print them. They contacted the company and said, hey, we want to do this, and if we get the plans, this could be easy, and we promise we're not trying to violate your patents or anything, we just want to get through COVID. And they asked their legal, and legal told them, it's like, well, you can't give them the plans, but we can just kind of look the other way through COVID. And so they kind of had to reverse engineer it themselves. They did 3D photo scans of them, I think. And they got some that worked. They didn't work as well as if they were able to get it from the manufacturer. But, they were able to do it. They were able to get through it. So, this was just kind of the things that happen with IP. It's just one more on the pile of all the bad things that result from IP. But, so anyway, Ron Wyden, and I've got another Tech Dirt story where he features in. Also, Representative Yvette D. Clarke, I don't know much about her, but they've introduced the Critical Medical Infrastructure Right to Repair Act of 2020. Yeah, it's a mouthful. It doesn't even make a stupid acronym. It would exempt medical equipment owners and servicers from liability for copying service materials or breaking DRM if it was done so to improve COVID-19 aid. I mean, that would be a nice start. It's, better than what we have now. And I mean, it should be like that just in general, especially if it's like a life and death situation. And it's like, hey, I need this part. It's like, well, we're backlogged. We can't get to the part for another couple of weeks. Well, people are going to die in the next couple of weeks. Hey, let's just 3D print them. Oh, no, you can't do that. It's a violation of patent. No, shut up. Let people live. Let people live. So Wyden released a statement. There is no excuse for leaving hospitals and patients stranded without necessary equipment during the most widespread pandemic to hit the U.S. in 100 years. I don't think that's right. I think there was was it a measles epidemic in the 50s or something like that? That might have been worse, but anyway, we'll go with it. It's not a big point. It's just common sense to say that qualifying technicians should be allowed to make emergency repairs or do preventative maintenance and not have their hands tied by overly restrictive contracts and copyright laws until this crisis is over. So, and there's been, as he points out, right to repair legislation brought forth in a lot of states. None of them have succeeded so far because Apple keeps lobbying against them. And as he says, they falsely claim that letting customers and independent repair merchants fix devices, which, like I said, is usually done much more cheaply, would be a privacy and security nightmare. The privacy and security nightmare is that we can't get into these things. Another example that I covered was when the W3C allowed standards for DRM that were completely closed, completely going against their own statements of why they exist, which is for an open web where all of the standards are transparent. Well, now we've got these closed DRM things that we use every time we watch Netflix in a web browser or whatever. That was demanded by all these big content providers. Well, they were saying it's like, hey, can we have one exception to this, W3C? Let's just have one exception. Oh, it's even Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the web. Even he abandoned us on that. It's horrible. But they just wanted one exception, and that exception was that cybersecurity professionals should be allowed to reverse engineer the DRM to check for security flaws. They would not allow it. They would not allow it. That is unconscionable. That you can't reverse engineer things to check for security flaws. That is the risk to privacy and security, not right to repair. So, and in Nebraska, Apple even tried to claim that such legislation would turn the state into a mecca for hackers. Sounds pretty cool to me, but what do I know? Yeah, sounds cool to me too, Carl, but yeah, I don't know. Apple has also spent years bullying a small repair shop in Norway because he used refurbished Apple parts to fix devices, and this is crazy. And so he says this is the first time such legislation will be proposed on the federal level. As such, likely seeing it as a gateway to broader legislation, companies like Apple, Microsoft, Sony, and John Deere will now likely do their best to quietly kill it, despite the positive impact it could have during a pandemic. But if it goes through, maybe we'll actually get the slippery slope working for us. Because then when this is over, they'll say, okay, well, we need this for any medical emergency and then for anything medical. And then by that point, we'll be able to see that all of their claims about right to repair are just complete BS. So we can hope, at any rate. We always live in hope. So thank you very much for watching. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And if you want to help keep this channel going, just go to donate.bogosity.tv and you can donate with PayPal or just give a few pennies in cryptocurrency if that's all you can give. Or if you can, become a regular at Patreon and Subscribestar. And you can see these videos for free. You can kind of see them raw and kind of see my little commentary and preparations as I move from one to the other. So some of them have gotten a kick out of that. So you get to see me in my uncensored best, I guess. Whatever that would be. But above all, please share this video everywhere you think people will be interested in it. And that really does more than you know to help compensate for things like YouTube shadow banning or whatever the heck is going on with this. So please do everything you can. Share this video, like, subscribe, the bell, and donate as much as you can. I know we're all going through hard times, but we'll get through it together. So, as always, until next time, stay strong and be free.